It's quite a nice moment when somebody gives you one of those lanyard passes at an event, and you look at it and it says access all areas. And that means really you are in that exclusive club of people who can go anywhere they like. Now, in a very small way, it's just a little bit of an illustration of how it is that we have access to God to worship. Now, I think, we're very relaxed about what we do in church, in many churches. And sometimes I think we can lose the wonder and the awe of the fact that we are actually able to worship God at all, that we are welcomed in His presence. And these are some thoughts I want to share as a worship leader. And it is to do with a doctrine, the doctrine of the Trinity. And first of all, I've had to understand that my only access to bring worship and be able to come before God and for my worship to be accepted is through Christ. Now, when I'm setting out to lead worship, it's important for me to stand up there and recognize that this has been a costly thing, but also that He has ascended to the right hand of the Father as our high priest, and He is there welcoming us into God's presence. And I try and get this picture into my head when I'm planning worship, and sometimes when I'm gathering the band together and we're praying about to worship. And I remind myself that Jesus is among us, and He's been made like us. But I go further than that and try and remember this verse about Him declaring the Father's name. Now that means everything revealed about the Father potentially can be shared, can be revealed. But this is Jesus' mission and heart, is to reveal God to us. So I ask the question, I pray so often, Jesus, what is it that you want to reveal to us about the Father? But there's still more to it, because remember, it says, in the midst of the congregation, I will sing your praises. So Jesus actually leads our praise. And this is such a powerful picture for me, because we can imagine as worship leaders that it's all up to us. But actually, we're seeking to follow the worship leader, the only one qualified to take us into God's presence. And it puts us, I think, in a place of humility, a place of dependency, a place of asking and seeking and waiting and listening, so that by the Spirit we can hopefully discern some direction. But perhaps, I think more than anything else, to recognize what an amazing thing it is to be able to come before God, be accepted by Him through Christ, and to bring Him thanks and praise. Now, for a worship leader, a really simple, straightforward way of grasping a bit of this understanding without having to open big theology books is just look at a hymn. And there's a hymn, Before the Throne of God Above, which is been given a new tune in recent years. And it begins, before the throne of God above, I have a perfect plea, a great high priest whose name is love, who ever lives and pleads for me. Because the sinless Saviour died, my sinful soul is counted free. For God the just is satisfied to look on Him and pardon me. That line is absolute dynamite. I'm worthy to come into God's presence, but it is because of all that Christ has done. And the Father looks at Christ, and it's because of Christ, because of what He did on the cross, then I'm accepted in Him. Access all areas. I think one of the most awesome and wonderful truths in this whole area is summed up in this quotation from a guy called James Torrance. And he says this, he says, worship is the gift of participating through the Spirit in the incarnate Son's communion with the Father. Okay. So all of a sudden, when you think that way, there's been a big shift between here am I worshipping God to here am I being drawn into this amazing relationship within the Godhead between Father and Son, into this mystery. And that God should love us so much that he would want to draw us in to share something of the wonder of that communion. So when I approach worship in this way, it really, really shifts away from just me and God. It shifts towards me being caught up in a much vaster and infinite relationship. And that somehow I can share in that. And just that itself makes me want to worship more, that God should lavish so much love upon us.